Hey, John, did you ever watch the Creature double feature as a kid?
You know what? I used to fall asleep in front of the TV every Saturday night, right before usually right before the last one, the second one would end, right before the static would come on the TV. If you remember back then, why do you ask?
Well, how do you feel about a Cisco CVE double feature? If you care about network security at all, you're not going to sleep on this nightmare.
Ooh. It's Friday, November 14th, and this is the IT SPARC Cast CVE of the week, where we pick a common vulnerability and exposure entry that you need to know about and how to mitigate ASAP. Now, today, as we mentioned before, we have a Cisco double feature. So we have two big issues and two different security components from Cisco that you need to know about.
Could
So,
we say, really, Cisco? Really?
really,
Okay.
Cisco?
Really? Okay. So let's get to the first one. Cisco warns of a new firewall attack exploiting CVE 2025-20333 and CVE 2025-20362. This comes to us by way of our friends at the Hacker News, but it is definitely spread out more. And this is kind of a nasty one. Okay, it's a really nasty one. Um, Basically it's being actively exploiting the two critical flaws in the ASA and the secure firewall threat defense system, the FTD systems. Attackers, and this is linked to the Arcane Doors Storm 1849, use CVE 2362 to bypass authentication, and then they chain that with CVE 2333 for remote code execution, gaining full device control. Okay, this is definitely, they've got it down as a 9.8 and 8.6. I would say this is a 10-0 on the old crapometer. Basically, they're going to get in and they're going to own you. Exploited devices show unexpected reloads, disabled logs, and even firmware persistence via ROM-mon modification. That's some scary stuff. There are roughly 50,000 internet exposed firewalls remaining unpatched right as we were recording this. And it requires minimal authentication or can be chained to be unauthenticated. There are USC, CISA, and UK NCSC have issued urgent patching orders. All right. If you have this stuff in your network and you haven't patched it, pause, go patch.
Yeah.
Right. We'll wait. This is bad. And basically, um, so remote code execution with 333-362 is missing authorization on web interface endpoints. How many times have we seen this one? And so here's your action steps, right? Patch now. Disable web VPN, SSL VPN interfaces until patched. You need that because that is the web entrant into this system. Check your management access. So restrict it to trusted IPs. Whitelist, whitelist, whitelist. You're going to
Yeah.
hear a lot more of this from us. You need to know where your folks are coming from. And if they're not coming from a place that you approved, shut it down. Check for compromise, odd CLI commands, reloads, disabled logs. If infected, factory reset and reinstall trusted firmware. So, John, I'm going to go off script here just a little bit.
Yep.
You need to have a multi-vendor strategy for your firewalls.
Agreed.
Yes. You need to have, everybody's going to get breached. It seems like we're picking on Cisco today. Cisco had some nasty ones pop. This has been happening. But Palo Alto gets breached. Fortinet gets breached. Sonic, well, holy
A
crap.
lot.
The point is, if you have two different vendor firewalls, you can take one completely offline, shift the load to the other one, and you can still service your enterprise, which absolutely needs to be up and running. But it's
So
single.
that's a good point, Lou. And the initial pushback on that is going to be, well, that's a lot of extra work and it's going to be really difficult to manage and all that stuff. And yes, that's true. But dealing with a breach is so much worse.
Oh
And
my God.
that it's not just the headache of dealing with the breach, but it's the impact of what happens when you're breached. So it's got to be part of it. And you've got to make an argument for it to get more budget, maybe more personnel, so that you can do these types of things.
You're going to have to use fear to drive this, but it's the number one driver. And speaking of something that's feared, underlying a lot of these exploits is identity.
Absolutely.
Oh my God.
If you've listened to us for any period of time, you've heard us talk about zero trust, and zero trust is the way you can accomplish so much and protect yourself so much. But zero trust is based on identity. Through Hacker News, they have found that there is a significant exploit for the Cisco Identity Services Engine, ISE. And what's happened is, the interesting part for me was that this came from Amazon. So Amazon's threat intelligence team identified exploits that had previously undisclosed remote code execution vulnerabilities in the Cisco ISE system and in the ISE passive identity connector, the PIC. So, and this was designated as CVE 2025-20337. And this allows for root level access with no authentication required.
Oh
so
my
this
God.
is a CVSS 10.0. This is a full on, go get this patched immediately. Again, pause this, we'll wait. Go update your ISE server right now if you haven't done so already. The vulnerability resides in an undocumented endpoint Cisco ISE API. So again, this is another API attack. We talked about an API attack last week, and we've talked about them before. It's going to become more and more common for APIs to be used as the entry point for these vulnerabilities and these attacks. So this enables a deserialization of attacker-controlled data. So come in at multiple angles, deserialized, so it's going to be harder to detect. They use a custom web shell disguised as an API call called Identity Audit Action, and it's tailored specifically for that Cisco ISE environment. And the invasion techniques include an in-memory operation, so there's no disk artifact, so you can't scan the disk and see this. It's running only in memory. It uses Java reflection injection into running threads, and then it uses DES encryption with a non-standard base 64 encoding system for C2 communication. So again, doing everything it can to make itself stealth so you can't see it and just be able to be operating. Now, some of the scary parts is that this vulnerability and the attacks on this vulnerability are in the wild and have been seen as early as May of this year, maybe earlier, but that's when we've started noticing them. And it's something that has been patched. So again, you need to take care of it. And so what you'll need to do is make sure that you are patched with any versions addressing this CVE. If you go to Cisco site, you'll see which versions of whatever you're running will be updated. You want to segment your management and access control structure. So we talked about this again a couple of weeks ago, that if you have your management and your networking stack on the same segment, that's a problem. You got to segment those things off so that if somebody gets in one way, they're not being able to get to your management side. You want to be able to monitor, as we said, for unusual HTTP listeners. And again, if you're seeing traffic inbound from something you're not expecting, and it's consistent, pay attention to it. Set your firewalls policies to flag those kinds of things. That's really, really important. And the other thing you need to do is just make sure that you're on a regular patch update cycle. So we joke about patch Tuesdays for Microsoft, but the reality is those patches are coming out for a reason. And yes, that involves some downtime, it involves some other things. But if you're not taking advantage of those patches, you're leaving wide open holes for hackers just to walk right through. So it's really important that we do that. And I want to give a big shout out to Hacker News. Both of our issues today came from the Hacker News. They are a huge source for us and what we report out on. Highly recommend that you're paying attention to them on X. I see 6, 7, 8 articles a day come out of Hacker News on X, or you can just monitor their site.
They're a fantastic starting point if you want to know what's going on and you can dig deeper. We like to take what they produce and sort of focus it just on what we think, because there's so much going on out there, right? What we think is immediately risky to more people is our criteria. These two, they're nasty.
So before we wrap up, I do want to share some feedback that we got from listeners. Actually, a question we got on YouTube regarding the F5 breach that we talked about a little while ago. Anoop asked on YouTube, he said, "Sir, does this affect only the management plane or also the data plane?" So the entire source code for Big IP got released. So that has anybody has access to it. You can go download it yourself. So it's out there. And the problem with that is that eventually 0-day issues are going to be found. They're going to be exploited, and you have to keep on top of those patches that we just mentioned to make sure that as soon as they are found and they are fixed, that you're patching it. Potentially anywhere it could be impacted. It could be the management plane, it could be the data plane, it could be anywhere. Matter of fact, I would say that right now, F5, if it's in your network, that's your number one threat point for hackers to get in, because they have access to the source code that's running on your system.
I don't know, man. Cisco ASAs aren't looking real good today.
It's true too. But that is going to cover this episode. We couldn't do this podcast without listeners like you and Anoop. So let us know what you think. Do you have a topic you want us to cover? Do you have a question you want us to fill in more details on? You can send email to feedback@itsparkcast.com, or you can hit us up on X at IT SPARC Cast. We've also been seeing a lot of people reaching out to us on LinkedIn. You can get us there. Or like Anoop, you can leave a comment down below if you're watching on YouTube. We read every bit of feedback and every comment that we get. We internalize it and we make sure we pay attention to it. And if it's particularly interesting, insightful, or entertaining, we will read it out on the broadcast. You'll get to hear your name and comment there. Make sure you hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. That way you never miss an episode. And from the world of enterprise and IT and security, take care.
Be safe out there, okay?